Have you ever felt the soul-deep exhaustion of pouring your heart and spirit into people, into situations, into dreams that simply do not pour back into you? It is a unique and piercing kind of pain, not a sharp wound, but an ache that seeps into the very marrow of your bones, a slow, relentless burn that never quite goes away. It is the quiet agony of showing up again and again, bending yourself in impossible ways, contorting your heart into unfamiliar shapes just to be seen, just to be understood. And each time, you're met not with warmth, not with the soft balm of reciprocity, but with a blank stare, an empty space where connection should be. You keep showing up because your spirit is resilient, your hope still flickering like a candle in a relentless wind. Yet the universe, or perhaps just the people you keep handing your energy to, seem to whisper back, "It's still not enough." And there it is, that sharp sting that convinces you that maybe you just have to try harder, care more, give more. And because you are love in motion, because you are wired for connection, you oblige. You pour even more of yourself into the void, hoping that maybe this time the flow will reverse. But deep down, in the hidden chambers of your spirit, you already know the truth. The more you pour, the emptier you become. The more you give, the more invisible you feel. And yet, a dangerous illusion takes root, the belief that this endurance, this capacity to bear the weight of one-sided love and lopsided energy makes you strong. You start to wear your suffering like a badge of honor, believing that your willingness to break yourself for others is some kind of noble sacrifice. But let me tell you a truth, one wrapped in the sacred fires of love and liberation. This path does not make you strong, it makes you spiritually fragile. It hollows you out, leaves your soul exposed, your energetic field like an open wound. When your peace, your sense of worth, becomes tethered to the unpredictable weather of others' moods and attention, you have handed over the keys to your sacred inner temple to the entire world, to anyone who chooses to walk by. And that, my love, is the great unspoken trap, the one too many of us fall into. It's time to see this dynamic for what it truly is. It is not love, it is not loyalty, it is not compassion in its purest form. No, it is a subtle and devastating form of self-abandonment. It's a form of self-neglect that masquerades as virtue, as being a good person, a good partner, a good friend. But in truth, it is a slow and steady erosion of your divine sovereignty. Every time you abandon yourself to prioritize the comfort of others, every time you swallow your own needs, desires, and emotions so that others don't feel uncomfortable, you are chipping away at your own wholeness. You are offering your life force on altars that were never built to honor you. And here is the reframe that can begin to recalibrate your entire energetic system. It is not the act of caring that is breaking you, it is caring in the wrong direction. It is directing that sacred current of energy toward people who view your depth as a convenience, who dip their hands into your waters only when they thirst, never stopping to ask if the well is running dry. It is pouring your tenderness into situations that act like black holes, swallowing your light without ever reflecting it back. And worse still, it is taking on burdens that were never yours to carry, weaving yourself into problems that were never part of your soul's contract to solve. You run yourself ragged trying to be the calm in someone else's chaos, the lighthouse for ships that refuse to anchor, the salve for wounds that others have no intention of healing. And in the midst of it all, your own soul's voice, soft, steady, waiting, becomes nothing more than a faint echo beneath the noise of everyone else's needs. But hear me now, this is not your destiny. This is not your sacred duty. This is a learned pattern, a vibration you were conditioned to hold. And, like any pattern, it can be unlearned, unwound, and ultimately released. The great shift begins the moment you make a conscious decision to withdraw your energy from these hollow investments, when you choose, finally, to stop caring in ways that deplete you. But do not mistake this for a bitter withdrawal or a retreat into numbness. This is not about building cold, impenetrable walls around your heart. No, this is an act of divine self-respect, a gentle yet unyielding reclaiming of your own energy, your own power. It is the sacred practice of discernment, of knowing where to pour your love and where to gracefully step away. And when you do this, when you stop chasing after scraps of validation, stop contorting yourself to fit into someone else's limited perception of you, something miraculous begins to happen. The scattered fragments of your energy, once flung into every corner of unworthy pursuits, start to return to you. They come home, like birds to their nest, bringing with them the strength, clarity, and peace that you've been seeking all along. You become anchored, rooted. a sovereign force standing in your own sacred ground. Suddenly, the triggers that once sent tremors through your body, the delayed texts, the half-hearted apologies, the cold shoulders lose their grip on you. They no longer have the power to shake your foundation because your sense of self is no longer held hostage by external circumstances. You stop trying to pull water from stones. You stop bleeding yourself dry for people who only show up when they're thirsty. And in that space of reclamation, you realize that the wellspring you've been trying to fill from the outside has always lived within you. I want to tell you a story, the story of a soul who walked through this very fire and emerged reborn. For years, she lived as a chaser of ghosts, a seeker of shadows. She gave her heart, her mind, her energy to people who never truly saw her, to relationships that dangled the illusion of love just far enough to keep her reaching. She was the fixer, the healer, the emotional caretaker, the one everyone turned to when life got heavy, but who stood alone when her own sky began to fall. She was the friend who always made the first move, the family member who carried the unspoken burdens, the employee who took on more without recognition. She wore her endless giving like a badge of honor, believing it made her indispensable, believing that maybe, just maybe, if she gave enough, someone would finally stay. But beneath that mask of capability was a soul gasping for air, a heart aching to be held as tenderly as she held others. The fracture came quietly, not with an explosion, but with the slow, undeniable realization that she was disappearing within her own life. And then, one morning, she just stopped. She stopped chasing, stopped initiating, stopped explaining herself to people committed to misunderstanding her. She didn't announce it to the world. She didn't make grand declarations. She simply reclaimed her energy, one quiet choice at a time. And with each act of letting go, her light began to return. I remember sitting across from her, watching this shift unfold, her presence no longer frantic or needy, but deeply, radiantly calm. She told me that for the first time in her life, she wasn't waiting for a message, a sign, or an apology. She wasn't monitoring the emotional weather of others. She wasn't reading between the lines of every text, searching for proof that she mattered. Instead, she was finally learning to sit with herself, with the ache, with the silence, with the unfamiliar space that opened up when she stopped filling it with other people's noise. She filled that space with herself. She returned to the passion she'd abandoned, the books gathering dust, the morning walks that reconnected her to the earth beneath her feet. She sat with her own sadness and discovered that beneath it was a well of strength she never knew she possessed. She stopped seeking to be chosen and instead chose herself every single day. She became fluent in the language of her own needs, her own desires, her own boundaries, and as she did, her energy changed. She became magnetic, not because she was trying to attract, but because she was finally aligned. People started to notice. The ones who once took her for granted felt the shift, the absence of her overextending. Some drifted away, and that was okay. Others returned, but on her terms, drawn not to her sacrifice, but to her sovereignty. This is what it means to become unbreakable. It is not about armoring your heart or closing yourself off. It is about standing so firmly in your own light that nothing and no one can dim it. It is about knowing that your worth was never up for negotiation, never contingent upon the whims or validation of others. It is about finally understanding that your energy is your most precious currency and it is not for sale. You are not here to perform for love, to audition for acceptance, to negotiate your place in someone else's life. You are here to be fully and unapologetically yourself. And in doing so, you create a life that nourishes you, relationships that mirror your wholeness, a path that feels like home. This is the reclamation. This is the return. And it begins the moment you choose to stop caring about what drains you and start fiercely, tenderly, consistently caring for yourself. It wasn't a loud, spectacular breakdown. It was a quiet, internal shattering. She didn't explode. She simply stopped. She stopped reaching out first. She stopped chasing the same people she had always tried to save from themselves. She stopped contorting her own soul to make everyone else in the room feel comfortable while she was suffocating. She told me the initial silence was terrifying. It felt like an amputation. It felt like she was disappearing from her own life, because for so long, her life had been defined by her reactions to others. But then, as the days turned into weeks, something else began to emerge from that silence. What happened next was the alchemy. That's where the magic, the true power, resides. In the quiet, she started to realize the staggering amount of life force energy she had been wasting every single day, just trying to keep people close who were already energetically halfway out the door. She began to see with crystal clarity how many of her so-called connections were not bonds of mutual respect and love, but were actually deeply ingrained emotional transactions. She gave support and they took it. It was that simple. She began to notice how much lighter she felt, physically and spiritually, without the crushing weight of everyone else's emotional baggage on her shoulders. With every day that passed, she cared a little less about being seen and a little more about being true. She stopped showing up for people who, through their actions or inactions, consistently made her question her own worth. She stopped offering the sacred text of her heart to people who were committed to misinterpreting the words. She stopped trying to be the palatable, easy-to-digest version of herself that everyone seemed to like, and she began, for the first time, to embody the woman she actually respected. And what she said next hit me with the force of a divine revelation. She looked at me, her eyes clear and calm, and said, "I didn't become cold. I just became unavailable for the bullshit." Think about the power in that statement. She didn't build walls, she built standards. She didn't close her heart, she just posted a gatekeeper at the entrance. And once she stopped caring in that self-sacrificial way, she didn't fall apart. She didn't lose the people who truly mattered. She didn't become heartless. She became free. She was free from the constant, gnawing need to be understood. She was free from the immense pressure to fix things she did not break. She was free from bending until she disappeared. And now, you can't touch her. You can't mess with her energy. You can't guilt her into staying where she's not honored. You can't bait her into old, draining arguments. You can't shake her foundation, because she is no longer playing the game. She is the game. She is peaceful now, and it's not the fake, fragile peace that comes from avoiding conflict. It's the earned peace, the deep, resonant peace that comes from unwavering self-alignment. Here is the part of the journey that no one warns you about. When you stop caring so much, when you embody this new frequency, you don't just protect your own peace, you become a mirror. You meet yourself, truly, for the first time in years. Because all of that magnificent energy you used to pour outwards, the worrying, the wondering, the overthinking, the planning, the fixing, it all gets rerouted. It flows back, a powerful tidal wave of healing, directly into the core of your own being, and suddenly there is space. Real, expansive, sacred space, mental space to dream your own dreams, emotional space to feel your own feelings without judgment, spiritual space to connect with your higher self. It's a space you didn't even realize was missing, because for years you had filled every single corner of your mind with the thoughts and concerns of someone else. You start having conversations with yourself again, not the anxious looping ones of, what did they mean by that? Or why did they do that? But real, honest, soul-level inquiries. What do I actually want? What burdens am I holding onto that are not mine to carry? What beautiful parts of myself have I put on hold because I was too busy people-pleasing? That sacred space is where the reconstruction begins. At first, it feels awkward, even unnerving. You might feel restless, like your mind is an idle engine waiting for a problem to solve, for a fire to put out. You've become accustomed to chaos, conditioned to a state of high alert, used to defining your days by how other people act or don't act. But then, slowly, gracefully, the silence begins to feel clean. It feels like clarity. You start to notice you're not as reactive anymore. A passive-aggressive comment doesn't ignite a firestorm within you, it's just information. You notice your boundaries solidify, rising naturally and effortlessly without the need for guilt or lengthy explanations. You stop second-guessing your own feelings just because someone else doesn't agree with them. And the most liberating part? You stop performing. Completely. You're no longer carefully crafting your text to sound the perfect balance of interested but not needy. You're no longer editing your own truth mid-sentence so people won't think you're too much. You're no longer scanning rooms, trying to match the energetic frequency of others just to avoid the possibility of rejection. You just show up as you are, fully, unapologetically, quietly, powerfully, strong. And people can feel it. Now, not everyone will like it. Let's be clear about that. Some will call you distant. They might label you as cold or selfish. But you must understand this divine truth. They are only saying that because they were addicted to the version of you who overgave. They were comfortable with the version of you who had no boundaries. But you are not here to be an energetic resource for others anymore. You are not here to be anyone's emotional sponge. You are not here to carry wounds that are not yours. You are here to live, to breathe, to be whole. And wholeness isn't loud. It has nothing to prove. It doesn't need to beg for love or chase for clarity. It simply exists, strong, centered, and free. So now, when someone pulls away, you don't chase. When someone disappoints you, you don't spiral into a vortex of self-doubt. When a situation no longer feels aligned with your spirit, you walk away without the drama, without the lingering pain, because you finally understand that your worth is not tied to their behavior. Your identity doesn't shatter just because someone else couldn't meet you where you are. That is not cold, that is healed. And once you taste this kind of profound clarity, this deep internal stillness, you realize something incredibly powerful. It was never about caring less. It was always about caring smarter. And finally, after all this time, it was about caring for yourself first. Now, this is where the journey becomes truly real. When you stop caring in the way you used to, people will notice. And they won't always notice with applause or respect. Most of the time, they notice through their own discomfort because you have disrupted the pattern. You are no longer predictable. You are no longer the one who always replies instantly, who always smooths things over, who always plays the peacemaker when they are the ones who have caused the war. You are no longer emotionally available on demand just because they decided to show up this time, and this unsteadiness unsettles people. Not because you are doing anything wrong, but because your energy used to serve their comfort, and now it serves your truth. You'll notice the shift quickly. People from your past will test the new you. They'll push the old buttons to see if you still react. They'll disappear and then reappear, expecting to find you right where they left you, waiting patiently by the phone. They might even say things like, "You've changed," not with curiosity, but with an undertone of accusation, as if your growth is an inconvenience to them. And in that moment, you will realize just how many of your past connections were built on the shaky foundation of your overgiving, your accommodating silence, your willingness to bend so they would never have to. But now you are not bending, you are not begging, you are simply being. And that being, that quiet, rooted presence that doesn't over-explain, doesn't over-apologize, and doesn't overextend, it exposes everything. You begin to see with divine clarity who actually respects you as a sovereign being, and who just like the version of you they could easily control. You see who checks in when you stop reaching out first. You see who truly listens when you speak with raw honesty instead of sugarcoating your truth. You see who stays when you are no longer emotionally entertaining them for free. It's wild how silence and self-respect act as a kind of spiritual truth serum. They reveal everything. And the ones who do stay, the ones who rise to meet this new, authentic version of you, the ones who grow with you, not against you, those are your people. Those are the souls who love you for who you are, not for the role you used to perform. That is the peace you earn by letting go, by drawing that line in the sacred sand of your soul and declaring, "I am not here to be drained. I am not here to be used. I am not here to prove my worth by overextending myself until I collapse." You stop justifying your decisions. You stop asking other people how you should feel. You stop negotiating your boundaries as if they are up for a vote. And when people realize they can no longer manipulate you through guilt, silence, or the withdrawal of their approval, they have two choices. They either level up to meet your new frequency, or they respectfully fall away. And in either outcome, you win. Because the version of you who stayed stuck in the cycle of caring too much, that version was never built to last. That version was built for survival, built to be loved, built to keep the peace at any cost. But this new version, the one who chooses peace over performance, clarity over chaos, this version is unshakable. And after all of it, after the silence, after the pullback, after the tests, and the shifting energies, a strange and beautiful thing happens. You realize you don't miss your old self, not even a little bit. The version of you who used to obsess over what everyone thought? Gone. The version that would spin in anxiety for hours over one dry text message? Gone. The version that needed constant reassurance just to feel okay. You can barely even recognize her anymore. And what replaces all of that noise isn't loud. It's not hype or fire or some inflated ego. It's just this quiet, expansive freedom. You're not scared anymore. You're not scared to walk away from what depletes you. You're not scared to disappoint someone in the service of your own truth. You're not scared to be misunderstood by those who aren't meant to be on your journey. You realize you don't owe anyone an explanation for your peace. And when you finally reach that point, that is when your life truly begins to shift in miraculous ways. You stop wasting time. You stop chasing people who were never meant to walk with you. You stop pouring your sacred energy into things that don't pour back. And you stop apologizing for the profound and beautiful way you now love yourself. It feels so natural, so right. Setting boundaries becomes as instinctive as breathing. Saying no longer requires a paragraph of justification. Pulling your energy back doesn't need to be announced. You don't have to prove your growth to anyone. You simply embody it. Your silence now speaks volumes more than your old reactions ever did. Your calm is more powerful than your old need to over-explain. And your peace? That is now the standard. Not everyone gets access to you anymore. Not because you're bitter, but because not everyone knows how to handle the divine frequency of a soul who is no longer chasing, no longer over-caring, and no longer constantly reaching to prove they are enough. And you are perfectly, beautifully good with that. You don't need to be liked by everyone. You don't need to be understood by everyone. You just need to be centered in your own magnificent truth. Because here is what you have finally learned. When you stop caring in the way that hurts you, you don't become cold, you become clear. And from that sacred clarity, everything else in your universe begins to align. You attract better, you move smarter, you rest deeper, you speak softer, but with more weight than ever before. You show up fully, but only where your presence is truly earned. And that, my friend, that is the kind of peace that no one can ever take from you. So now, you have a choice. You can keep overthinking every little thing. You can keep shrinking yourself just to be liked. You can keep caring so damn much that it breaks you over and over again. Or you can let that version of you rest, for real, this time, not with a platitude, not with a performative boundary, but with a deep, soul-level decision. A decision to stop giving your energy away just to feel wanted, to stop pouring into people who only show up when it benefits them, to stop tying your worth to how well you can hold everything together for everyone else. Because you are done being breakable. You've outgrown the chase. You've outgrown the silence. You've outgrown the cycle of caring so much that you forget who you are. Now, you move differently. And if this message struck a chord deep within your soul, if you felt something shift, even just a little, I invite you to declare it. Go to the comments and simply write, "I don't break." Say it, type it, feel it. Let it anchor into your being. That declaration isn't for the algorithm, it's for you. It's a moment of profound honesty, a decision made in real time. And if this is where you are now, if you are choosing peace over performance and clarity over chaos, then hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. Because this sacred space right here is for the souls who are done breaking just to belong. We are not building louder lives here, we are building stronger ones. I'll see you in the next one.